Thank you. 大家午安。我首先得表示对金管会、台湾证券交易所表示感谢，让我来参加今天这个论坛。我前后在台湾住了大概17到18年，所以很高兴也很荣幸有这个机会回到老家。I am today representing the Governing Council of the Asian Corporate Governance Association. I'm also a senior fellow at the Kennedy School of Government at Harvard University, and have been in the past and currently directors of listed companies and private companies, mainly in China. I'm currently on the board of a state-owned Chinese asset management company. And I've been interested in corporate governance for a long time, and especially in the role of the independent director. And my feeling was, when I started looking into this, that if you really want to understand the role of a director, you better go and be one. Today, our topic is the board function and responsibilities. And I'd like to talk just a minute about an article that came out recently by a gentleman by the name of Lex Suvanto, who's a senior manager at the public relations firm Edelman. And the title of his article was, "Should a Board Have a Reputation?" And this is a bit of a contrary question, because normally we think of the board of directors as being the silent partners in the corporation. The people who we see publicly are the CEOs, who are usually very visible. In the United States, the CEO is typically double-hatted with the chairman. And you don't hear too much about the board. The board really doesn't function as a collection of individuals. As you know, in the bylaws, the board really doesn't function until it votes on something. So why would a board need a reputation? Well, boards need a reputation because if something goes wrong, suddenly the board of directors becomes highly visible. Examples that come to mind are Enron, the collapse of Lehman Brothers, recently Tesla. The question's been raised, is the board exercising oversight over the CEO of Tesla? A famous fraud in China, some of you may be aware of, Long Top, where the board was a blue-chip group of people and included ex-Goldman Sachs and whatnot people, and suddenly it turned out they were presiding over a fraud. And here in Taiwan, there was XPEC, famous case where there were 3 high-profile political and media people as independent directors who, again, failed in their oversight of a company that turned out to be a fraud. So the reputation of the board, as it appears, can either be no reputation at all or very bad. And so what the gentleman who wrote the article is arguing is that boards need to think about how their actions might be perceived, and I think that this is a good way to think about evaluating a board's performance, in that how you are executing against your social responsibilities. So what might go into a board's reputation? Is the board seen as independent and strong-minded? Does the board evidence diverse thinking and perspective? Does the board have the ability to stay ahead of technological change? Technological change is important for 2 reasons. One is disruption. If you were on the board of a taxi company and you didn't foresee the advent of mobile phone app-based solutions like Uber, then you're really not doing your job. Also, technology involves the risk of cybercrime, which is on most board agendas these days. And finally, is the board seen to be in touch with strategy as well as the company's impact on society? Does the board really understand what kind of company this is and where it's going? There are a couple of solutions that he recommends for boards to try to work on crafting and sustaining a reputation. One is engagement, predominantly with investors, but also selectively with the media. And another is communications. How does the board use the annual report and the company's website to communicate how the board interacts with management and what the strategic mission is of the company? And finally, evaluation. How does the board evaluate its own performance relative to those goals? Obviously, this needs a lot of coordination between people that have different roles. The chairman, the inside directors, who typically are also managers of the company, and independent directors. And it also requires balance. It requires balance between the fiduciary duty of each individual on that board, as well as what's the ultimate purpose of a board, which is to be effective in leading the company, and leading the company in performing well for its stakeholders, first and foremost among those, the shareholders. So with those thoughts, I'd like to thank everyone for attending our session and turn the floor over to our panelists for their presentations. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Williams. 那么接下来呢，我们就欢迎我们的第一位语谈人，财团法人宋作南先生，纪念教育基金会的陈清祥董事长。Please welcome our first panelist, Mr. Clark Chen, Chairman of T.N. Song Foundation. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Chairman Chen.
大家午安。吃完饭呢，刚好应该是蛮容易睡觉的时候。那么早上有谈到呢，怎么样会让各位睡不着觉？什么东西会让你半夜醒来？好，那我们今天要谈的问题呢，是董事职能提升跟权责合理化。好，那么刚刚有介绍过呢，在座很多老朋友，顺便 update 一下呢，我之前的工作呢，在 Deloitte， 在勤业中信。所以呢，35年的工作呢，在去年12月1号的时候退休了，所以我现在的工作全部都是公益的性质，跟今天有关的，我是中华公司治理协会的副理事长。那我跟公司治理怎么扯上关系呢？在座很多人还没出生的时候呢，1983年我的硕士论文呢，就在研究台湾的监察人制度跟美国的审计委员会这样子，所以35年来呢，作为拍摄业务呢，从 auditor 从顾问，实际上观察公司的董事会的运作、审计委员会运作，所以这是我今天在这里呢跟各位分享的主要原因。好，那各位呢看一下你的资料里面呢，其实我们今天要谈的主题呢是有4个小的议题，而这4个小的议题包含了董事的风险控管呢，跟商业判断法则，包含董事法律责任分析，包含财务报表不实案例的解析，最后包含了企业如何提供适当资源来支援董事会这样子。那我用短短的时间呢，针对这些议题呢，做一些简短的报告。所以各位想一下，为什么会让你睡不着觉呢？董事的责任是很重的，所以我们才要来谈这个议题。所以呢，休息之余呢，请这个清醒一下，了解一下董事的责任到底是什么。那么在各位都清楚了，根据公司法23条呢，董事呢必须要履行忠实跟注意的义务。如果有违反规定，公司受到损害，那基本上呢就要负赔偿的责任。那另外呢，在财务报表不实的部分来讲，在证券交易法呢20条之1上面呢会特别谈到，当财务报表不实的时候，董事要不要负赔偿责任？那么董事呢，基本上在财务报表不实的时候呢，是推定的过失责任。如果你能够证明你已经尽了相当的注意，而且有正当的理由，可以合理的确信你的内容没有虚伪或隐匿的情事，基本上你就没有责任。问题是你怎么举证你已经尽了相当的注意呢？ 所以关键的问题会在未来，万一你当董事的公司出了问题了，你怎么说你已经履行了忠实注意义务？你怎么说你已经尽了相当的注意呢？你怎么举证？你怎么说明？你说明完了之后，检察官、法官听得进去吗？所以呢，根据我的了解，因为我不是学法律的，所以根据我的了解呢，在台湾的实务上呢，刚刚讲了是不是尽了相当的注意，基本上呢，它可能是蛮抽象的法律的概念。实际上呢，到底有没有呢？要法院呢、法官呢，根据每一个案子的完全的情况来判断。可是你会发现，很多状况呢，当出问题了，当做了很多调查完了之后，其实所有案子摊开来的时候，你很难解释说，为什么你当初没有注意到？在过去的非常多的案例里面，很多时候呢，你会发现这个被告的董事呢，都会说，我不应该有责任啊，因为我又不是学会计的，财务报表密密麻麻我都看不懂啊。或者是说，那我们公司都已经委托会计师查核啦，会计师都查不出来，我怎么会知道呢？会计师的查核，我都信赖他的东西，所以我应该没有责任了。另外呢，我没有实际上参与经营决策啦，都是董事长、总经理、经营团队做决定的，我只是参加开会而已啊。但是这一些基本上呢，都不会被法官来接受这样子。另外，我想各位早上也有提到，当公司出问题的时候，台湾的投资人保护中心就会代位求偿。所以，以去年所发生的乐盛案为例，如果投资人全部的损失有39亿的时候，投资人保护中心会把一竿子人全部都抓进来，一起求偿。各位也知道，这个3个独立董事呢，非常有名的人呢，都列在这里面。为了要确保你的财产还有可能会被假扣押，所以你的责任有多重呢？这也是各位知道为什么我退休到现在呢，我太太还没有答应我去当独立董事。那我的了解呢，目前呢，投资人保护中心呢，什么状况呢，不会把你告进去？第一个，基本上你在这个议案的时候呢，你有提出反对或保留意见。第二个呢，你对这个案子呢，这个弊案呢，你有提出检举。如果是这种情况之下的话呢，投资人保护中心呢，在做民事求偿的时候，不会把你作为求偿对象。这是那么台湾法院的案子呢，还是有董监事呢，最后法院认为呢，他已经尽了相当的注意。如果我的了解没有错呢，这是2015年的一个案子。那么高等法院的判决里面呢，这家公司呢要去买个大楼，这个监察人呢就委托呢相关人员去做调查。那么委托会计师律师调查完之后呢，觉得财务状况有异常。那么在开会的时候呢，这个董事呢，这2位董事呢也都提到，这个希望董事长呢配合监察人还有专案小组的调查等等。最后的结论呢，这个法官认为呢，这2个董事呢已经善尽了董事的责任这样子。那这几个董事应该很庆幸，他被认为已经善尽责任了这样子。可是各位要想的是，换另外一个法官来判这个案子的时候，他会不会认为你已经尽了责任这样子？所以呢，刚刚早上我们理事长提到，我们在9月19号公司治理协会呢也开了一个国际论坛。我们在这个论坛里面也提到，同样的针对刚刚的情况，台湾董事的责任呢，有些地方是蛮模糊的，没有明确的准则呢可以去依循，所以这样的情况呢，就有可能造成董事的风险不断来提高，而影响到好的人、专业的人员，包括在座的各位，你可能不太敢或者是不愿意去当 独立董事这样子。所以呢，我们的建议呢，基本上是希望所谓的商业判断法则或者是经营判断法则，简称呢 BJR 呢，能够在台湾呢具体的被推动跟落实这样子。那另外呢，早上我们理事长也有提到呢，就是有关于董事在执行职务的相关的运作，可不可以建立准则或者是最佳实务？这个部分呢，如果 BJR 商业判断法则的东西能够列到公司治理的守则或相关的法规里面，是不是有助于董事责任的厘清？这些实务的建立呢，如果定得很清楚，是不是方便投保中心当要不要把董事列为求偿对象的时候，可以作为参考？法院在判定这个董事呢，是不是落实他的忠实跟注意义务的时候，是不是也可以用这些最佳实务来作为参考？那我想，有关这个商业判断法则呢，或者是 BJR 的部分来讲的话，我想在国外呢，不管是欧美很多的国家呢，都有很多这方面的实务，包括我们公司治理协会呢，每一年呢也都找了这个美国德拉瓦州的退休的这个大法官呢，来分享有关这方面的经验。那么在商业判断法则里面呢，可能会认为董事呢在做决策的时候，是他很重要的经营或者是商业的判断。那么只要他在决定的过程当中，在他决定的内容里面没有显著不合理的情况之下，那么是不是应该认为董事并没有违反他的注意跟善良管理人的义务这样子？所以呢，在经营判断法则里面的积极的条件里面，会谈到董事在做这个决定的时候，他是一项经营或商业性的判断。他在做决策的时候呢，没有财务上利害关系，而且是很独立的在做决定。他在做这个决定的时候，做了合理应该有的注意，而且是善意的行为，而且没有滥用裁量权等等。那这个部分呢，未来期望主管机关希望这个公司治理的各个部分呢，能够跟法界的法官等等做更多的交流沟通呢，让 BJR 呢能够在台湾具体的落实跟运作这样子。那第二步我刚刚提到的建议呢，是有关于怎么样去发展最佳的实务的运作这样子。那么最佳实务的运作里面，当然包含董事到底要做些什么事。那我就很简短的时间呢，用审计委员会为例。各位如果有印象，当之前因为乐生事件，因为一些事件完了之后，你会发现，根据金管会的统计呢，过去3年多的时间里面，有将近300位的独立董事想要辞职，因为他觉得责任好重。所以详细的呢，各位可以参考我在2017年6月呢，在经济日报所发表的文章。最重要讲的事情是，董事会说，独立董事会说，审计委员会成员会说，我3个月才去公司开一次会啊，除了金融业以外，我3个月才去公司开一次会，我怎么知道公司发生些什么事情？要我在3个月开会的时候审查这个财务报表，审查内控，有很多东西我不知道。基本上呢，在这个运作里面，我想要特别强调的，审计委员会呢是董事会下面的功能性委员会。所以审计委员会的运作里面呢，跟财务长、跟会计师、跟内部稽核3者有非常密切的关系。所以各位应该很清楚，在证券交易法14条之5里面呢，特别提到会计师的聘任、解任跟报酬，财务长、稽核人员的聘任、任免，都是审计委员会跟董事会的职权。所以作为审计委员会的成员，你必须要确保这一些人呢做他该做的事情，你必须要确保财务长、内部稽核是 qualified， 你必须要确保会计师有尽责在做相关的事情。所以以这个为例，如果审计委员会在这3个方面的协助之下，我们确保它能够运作。时间的关系，我只针对其中有一个部分 你怎么跟会计师互动的事情，来跟各位做一个很简单的分享。跟各位在审查财务报表的时候，譬如说以2018年的第2季、第3季财务报表过了，各位花多少时间在审查这个财务报表？有些公司里面可能把财务报表的重要数字念一下，问问看大家有没有什么问题。独立董事可能常常，这个存货为什么增加这么多？为什么兑换损失这么大？问一问比较分析的问题完了之后，可能就结束了，甚至会认为说财务报表都委托会计师查核或核阅，所以他都看过了，没有问题，我怎么有办法呢？实际上，在最佳实务里面，有关跟会计师的运作里面呢，其实是全年度都在进行的，包括你要会计师在年度开始的时候，必须要跟审计委员会去报告年度的查核计划。审计委员会必须要来审查一下这个查核计划到底有没有掌控风险所在。会计师呢会调查跟评估公司的内部控制，审计委员会必须要在期中跟期末的时候跟会计师去沟通公司的内部控制到底有没有什么重大的缺失，有没有什么其他的建议等等。以这些为例，我想各位应该有印象，在非常多年前，有一家公司呢，老外 CEO 离职完了之后呢，就会发现他在欧洲呢认了非常大的减损。为什么会发生这样的状况？你会发现他在欧洲是一个很大的营运单位，当业务目标定得很高的时候，他是不是业绩没办法达成，就把你的存货不许到经销商，不许到客户那里去。那所以呢，你在查核计划的时候，会计师你的欧洲的子公司跟孙公司是谁在查核的？你怎么确保他的应收账款，确保他的存货，确保他的销货的截止是正确的？你怎么确保它的内部控制在销货的截止这个部分，在内部控制、内部稽核是完整？同样的，当年度财务报表或者是季报表出现的时候，会计师要来报告查核的核阅的结果，财务长要报告财务的结果。那么同时针对这个报告里面，针对从去年财报开始的所谓的关键查核事项，包括这个公司是不是有资产的减损，或者是很多重要的存货到底有没有备抵债账到底提得够不够，应收账款跌价损失到底提得够不够等等。你会发现过去有很多的案例，各位有印象吗？大陆有一些公司，我们跟他做生意做得好好的，有一家公司叫乐视，结果后来发现台湾的很多公司都在应收账款上认了很大的损失。如果你没有认，你的财务报表就没有允当表达。还有公司呢，本来应该备抵债账要提呆账的，结果他用以债作股，所以以债作股的结果，你的投资到底有没有那么多等等，这些都必须要被考量。这样子很重要的事情，除了查核规划，除了内部控制，除了核阅或查核结果之外，审计委员会必须要评估会计师的独立性。审计委员会必须要评估会计师年度查核的绩效，决定要不要续聘这个会计师。更重要的事情是，审计委员会的最后必须要请公司的所有人都出去，审计委员会的成员必须要来问会计师，你的查核范围有没有受到限制？你跟管理当局中间有没有什么不一样的意见等等？刚刚讲的例子呢，把审计委员会跟会计师中间的互动沟通做更多的讨论。如果你都做到了这一些，当这家公司出问题的时候，你是不是可以告诉法官说，我做了这么多的事情，来证明我已经尽了专业应该有的注意等等之类的。同样的，我今天没有时间再讲，以内部稽核为例，一样的，我们对内部稽核要 核准它的年度稽核计划，我们要报告稽核的结果。同样的，你要看看稽核的范围有没有受到限制，它的独立性有没有问题，都是同样的概念这样子。那所以刚刚所讲的呢，有关董监事的责任的部分，我们希望透过 BJR 的运用，希望透过能够发展最佳的实务，让大家有所遵循，包括董事运作有所遵循，包括投资人保护中心要不要把你送这个，要不要民事求偿作为参考，包括法院这个判案的依据等等。那最后我要谈到有关最后一个子题呢，有关于如何提供适当的资源来协助董事会发挥职能。那我想各位都知道呢，在新版的公司治理蓝图，今年4月发表的这个蓝图里面呢，特别提到2点，一方面就是要推动公司治理人员，第二个呢是透过投保董监责任险呢，使得董监事权责合理化。那这个部分在这个蓝图里面呢，已经讲得非常详细。尤其呢，我想各位知道，今年初的时候，这个我们在修公司法的时候，原来希望把公司治理人员放到公司法里面去，后来呢没有放进去。那我个人的建议呢，在这篇文章里面呢，各位可以参考，在10月3号我在《经济日报》发表文章里面，我的看法是，那建议主管机关应该想办法把公司治理人员，就是国外所谓的公司秘书的制度，要推动的话，应该想办法修证券交易法，在证券交易法里面把它的法源放进去，然后对于公司治理的，不管是公司秘书或公司治理人员，他到底资格、条件各方面等等，应该想办法把它法制化。那我所知道的，目前主管机关在做的事情是由证交所 OTC 去定相关的规定，然后呢去运作这样子。那明年呢，2019年开始，所有的金融事业还有资本额100亿以上的公司，必须设至少1名的公司治理专职人员。那希望证交所 OTC 定的相关的办法呢，能够尽快的公布，让业者能够有所遵循。不过大家也不用太紧张，因为目前的规定应该是可以兼职的，意思是说目前还不需要专任的人员这样子。那除了公司治理人员跟董监事责任保险之外呢，我个人会认为呢，协助董事提供适当资源呢，最重要的事情是，公司如果要好好落实公司治理，很重要一件事情，主管机关也好，希望独立董事扮演监督的角色。但是实际上，很多公司除了监督之外，最希望独立董事是能够提供具有附加价值的建议，能够除了防弊之外，能够兴利。所以很重要一件事情呢，早上也有提到呢，在一开始的时候，你到底怎么样找到适当的人来当独立董事？一开始的时候，负责人应该跟外部的总监事充分沟通彼此的期望。除了法令要求的监督之外，你希望他在哪一些方面能够帮助公司，不管是并购方面，不管是新兴科技的创新方面，未来的业务成长方面，哪一些方面能够有更具体的建议，那么负责人应该跟外部总监事呢沟通彼此的期望。另外呢，很多外面的独立董事呢，就是不清楚公司的状况，不清楚公司的产业，所以公司呢有义务要协助外部的总监事了解公司的特性跟状况，尤其对于独立董事跟新进的董事，应该对他做简报，让他很清楚的了解公司的业务、公司的现况、公司的未来发展计划，以及公司在产业的地位是什么状况。那当然，因为这样子，只有让所有的董事、所有的独立董事对于公司董事会里面所要讨论的每一个议案都有相同或相当的了解，这样的情况之下， 才能够帮助公司做出最好的决策。所以开会之前呢，当然要及时的提供充分的会议资料。当然，很多案子的时候，这个负责的单位呢，必须要做详实的简报，包括交易的理由、交易的目的、可能产生的风险跟应的对策、对财务业务的影响等等，才不会后来你发现，乐升事件出问题了完之后，本来是因为公开收购没有成功，造成投资人的损失，结果后来发现说，为什么公开这个乐升去并购这个大陆一些游戏公司的时候，这些公司营收也不高，也没有什么获利，为什么要花这么多钱去并购？那就回到那当初的审计委员会或董事会的议案审查的时候，调出录音或录影的时候，你会发现你到底有没有好好的在做简报，有没有好好在做审查。而在这个审查过程当中，当然必须要公司要建立开放讨论的会议文化，让所有的董监事都能够畅所欲言、据理力争、充分讨论跟意见交流这样子。当然有很多人会说，我有很多充分的讨论，但是呢，我的资料呢都在会前会，所以提醒各位，会前会没有录音跟录影哦。等到下次这家公司出问题的时候，调出录音录影的时候，都在当初会议的时候，你说会前会，你讲了好多，提了好多问题，大家都同意了，这是各位要注意的风险。要协助公司做出最好的决策，除了监督之外，很重要一件事情呢，如果你要让独立董事更了解公司，你要邀请独立董事呢，所有的董事呢参与重要的会议，包括年度的 business plan， 包括季检讨，包括重大的投资并购案等等，而不是当你有个并购案的时候，发一个临时董事会的通知，1点半开会，要讨论什么不知道，1点半开会的时候告诉大家我们今天要做一个很大几百亿的并购案，但是呢后面又说我们是一个上市公司，所以我3点钟要到交易所去重大的记者会说明，意思说这个案子都已经搞定了，你就同意就背书就好。而相反过来，应该在更早的时候就参与所有的董事参与等等之类的。那在我们的证交法，为了要让独立董事呢的运作呢，也希望能够提供适当的资源，所以在今年4月25号修正的证券交易法14条之2，也特别强调呢，公司呢不能够妨碍独立董事执行职务。然后独立董事呢，如果认为有必要的时候，要求董事指派相关的人员，或者是自行聘请专家来协助。所以在座的独立董事呢，尤其是独立董事，如果你发现这个议案公司找了专家，可是你觉得专家的意见看起来有点奇怪，你是不是要考虑请相关人员再说明？是不是要考虑自行聘请专家去协助处理相关的事情？最后呢，时间的关系呢，做个很简单的结语，就是说，董事责任很重，各位会不会睡不着？当然，结论最重要的事情，当然是最重要的事情是，各位要当董事，要当独立董事，你必须要慎选公司，慎选经营者，确保这些公司的经营者是诚信经营的，确保他的 integrity 是没有问题的。那刚刚有建议，我们也希望商业判断法则呢，能够在台湾被引进、被落实。尤其我们需要跟法界的人士做更多的沟通、更多的讨论。然后我们希望透过董事执行职务最佳实务的建立，让董事、让公司、让投保中心、让法院，大家未来有一个参考的准则。公司呢，如果要好好落实公司治理，最重要的要努力的协助董事呢，能够发挥监督防弊的功能。更积极面来讲，要协助董事能够兴利或者帮公司创造价值。最后讲了那么多，董事的责任很重，董事要做的事情很多， 请各位不要随便接受独立董事的案子，因为它风险很高。从公司的角度要落实公司治理，你希望独立董事扮演非常心力除弊的工作，那就应该要想办法支付独立董事跟所有董事更合理的酬劳。我想各位知道，过去的金管会的统计资料呢，应该有超过90%几的独立董事的酬劳呢，都低于200万这样子。那各位说，怎么低于200万？有人会觉得我可能连100万都不到，因为我们在这个年报上面的揭露呢，第一个层级是200万以下，所以你可能连100万都不到。如果主管机关希望独立董事扮演这么重要的角色、这么重要的责任，那么公司呢要好好落实公司治理，必然应该要想办法支付更合理的报酬，让独立董事能够应用他的专业知识、实务经验，投入时间来帮助公司做出最好的决策。好，因为时间的关系呢，我就报告到这里，谢谢大家，谢谢。
谢谢陈董事长非常精彩的分享，谢谢，请董事长先回座。接下来呢，我们要邀请的是第2位与谈人，美国证管会波士顿分处的处长。Next, please welcome our second panelist, Mr. Paul Levinson, Director of Boston Regional Office of the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. Ladies and gentlemen, please give him a warm welcome.
Good afternoon. So I was asked to talk a little bit about fraud in financial statements and financial reporting. And the starting point for the discussion is to talk about what is fraud. It's not a complicated concept, but we're talking about intentional and reckless conduct, acts or omissions that results in materially misleading financial statements. It involves gross or deliberate distortion of corporate records, falsified transactions, misapplication of accounting principles. This is not accidental conduct. What we're talking about is behavior that, viewed in isolation, involves a knowing and intentional false statement. So now the question I want to ask is, who would do such a thing? What does the person or people who commit financial fraud look like? And I've spent most of my career dealing with the worst aspects of financial life. I've been a federal prosecutor for most of my career, and much of my work with the SEC also involves failures in this area. And what I would say is the people who commit financial fraud look like the people who manage the companies that you may be asked to sit on the boards of. The experience that I draw from this, I have met a handful of people who were natural predators, who were sociopaths, who had evil intentions when they got involved in the management of a company. What I have met are a great many people who, under the pressure of either incentives to perform or the shame and fear of failure when faced with disappointment or difficult news, fail initially in a minor way. The initial failures may have to do, as often as not, with the timing of a sale at the end of a quarter, and a sale that looks like it's ready to go through at the end of a quarter and instead then looks like it's going to be a little later and is recognized ahead of time. A matter of a few days, but a matter in terms of a public reporting company of whether or not one hits targets and street estimates for earnings. So how does it go from a timing transaction, a characterization of a sale in which there is in fact a concession of a right of return, to the kind of gross fraud that ultimately destroys a company? And part of it is an inevitable function of what we sometimes, in the United States, we speak of a snowball effect. And in Taiwan, I don't think you play with snowballs very often, but with a snowball, you start with a small amount of snow and you roll it, and it gets bigger and bigger as it rolls along. And in financial transactions, businesses are built on optimism. That's how an entrepreneur builds a business. That's how management leads a business forward. Yet optimism must be tempered in the governance of a corporation with realism. And it is when that goes out of balance, the initial errors are small, the initial misstatements are small, but very often, if you have missed once, the optimism that says, yes, we will make it up during the next quarter, you've now started a quarter in which the amount of sales you need to produce, the amount of revenue you need to produce in that next quarter, you're already starting from in a hole. So your optimism has to be not only for the targets you originally had, but for the amount you missed in the last quarter. And the effect that happens, that I've seen again and again, is that by making the first false statement, by whether it's somebody in the CFO's office or the controller's office or even at the sales management level, once somebody has marginally violated the rules, there's a great deal of shame and powerful disincentives to come forward and say, I did it wrong. Undoing the falsehood is tremendously difficult, and people will then psychologically and emotionally commit all the more heavily to the optimistic hope that they will somehow find their way out of the hole that they have begun to dig. So this is, again, what I'm trying to describe is how does an ordinary human being who went into business in hopes of building a company they could be proud of, building products and building a market they could be proud of, find themselves doing grossly fraudulent things? And the answer is they're personally invested. Human beings, by their nature, avoid making hard decisions and will make greater and greater bets, if you will, to try and, if the choice, I guess to phrase it differently, if the choice on any given day is to say, I need to go to the board of directors or to the audit committee or to the shareholders and explain that I was not completely truthful in last quarter's financials, and that in fact we need to restate, albeit a minor amount, and I will need to resign my job, and I may never get another job. Or I can wait and see if by any chance our renewed sales efforts and our extra energy will lift us out of this hole. People will make the choice to hope even as it surpasses the point of rationality. And that is the dynamic by which ordinary people who start with very good intentions find themselves doing things that are unimaginably wrong by the time they are done. It goes from making the numbers and perhaps accelerating revenue of recognition to a world of creating entirely fictitious transactions, creating transactions that are designed to hide or eliminate, say, a receivable, a sale that was accounted for in or reported in a prior quarter that never goes through. Now there's a receivable that is aging, and a new transaction is created to cover that receivable so that at year end it is not sitting as a prominent receivable likely to attract audit attention. And what began as an optimistic hope that a sale at the end of a quarter would produce the hoped for earnings turns into somebody preparing a completely fictitious document of false, it can be false shipping materials. I've seen people literally sending Christmas gifts and T-shirts to customers in order to take mail receipts, the FedEx receipts to provide to the accountants to show evidence of shipment of goods. The behaviors, by the time they reach that point, seem obviously fraudulent. They seem to be not the acts of an ordinary person. They seem perverse and deeply wrong. Yet the people who do this, and it's an important point here, I say the people who do this, financial statement fraud is not the act of a lone actor or a rogue employee. What is remarkable to me is in all of the cases that I have dealt with involving significant financial statement fraud, it may have begun with one or two people, it may have begun in one or two departments. Ultimately, large numbers of people within a company are compromised and involved. So that, again, that tells you something about who is involved in financial fraud. No company can go out and hire lots of people who are natural criminals, who also have the degrees and experience and resume to get those jobs. So it is ordinary people of ordinary motivations who find themselves doing terrible things and agreeing to do them to assist others, and having assisted in a small way, find it impossible to say, well, it's time for me to go and report that I did something wrong earlier, rather than hoping the whole enterprise somehow works out. So it becomes a collective enterprise. It infects an organization, frequently reaches the very top of an organization, and I would suggest usually is generated in part from that tone at the top. I think in particular of one conversation I had with the chief executive officer of a company that was destroyed in the wake of a financial disclosure fraud. And I said to this man, who had a very good defense to criminal liability in that the general counsel of the company undertook to solve and fix problems that could not be solved. And the CEO could say legally it was true. I relied on my lawyer, who knew more than I did about the details of these transactions. But I said to this man, 7 people that you worked with now have criminal records. They are felons. Several of them are going to prison. One has hanged himself when facing extradition. What do you have to say for yourself? And he said, I didn't tell anybody to break the law. I didn't tell anybody to cheat. I told them we need to meet these targets. I didn't see that it was my job to tell them to obey the law. I thought it was my job to tell them what to accomplish. And then he said something which I don't know will make sense here. He said, when Bill Belichick, who's the coach of the New England Patriots, a football team, he said, when Bill Belichick tells his players to go out and play, he doesn't tell them go follow the rules, he tells them go out and win. And for people who follow American football in detail, there have been scandals involving the New England Patriots and their tactics. But leaving that aside, that mindset of tone from the top is precisely what generated catastrophic results. This man went from being the chief executive officer, even though he was not charged criminally, he was charged civilly and fined a great deal of money by the SEC, and is barred from ever serving as an officer and director of another public corporation. But what he did, or what his leadership did to the people below him, was even worse. But this captures, I think, one of the critical tensions that any board of directors has with management. You need to push management hard to produce results and to accomplish, and yet you have to be tempering that with a culture that requires honesty and clarity and transparency. And if you'll indulge me a moment, the best metaphor I can come up with, we often use casually the expression that the directors are supposed to be the adult supervision. And when I think about what adults are supposed to look for their children, they may push them very hard to succeed, to do extremely well, and yet who wants to push their child to the point that their child lies about their achievements and is unable to explain the reality of their life and their achievements and is living a lie rather than provide bad news. The reality is, looking across the landscape, companies will face bad news. Well-run companies often weather it. It depends, again, on the depth of shareholder support. It depends on the strategic vision and whether they have shareholders who believe in that and are committed to it, or whether they simply have shareholders who are looking at a rising, I guess left to right, rising curve for revenues or earnings, and particularly with startups where focus on revenues rather than ultimate profitability can drive share prices very quickly. It can be hard for management to focus on building long-term value in a company. But at the end of the day, it's not only the value of the company and the reputation of management. It will be, as Jeff Williams pointed out, it will be the reputation of the board. In all of the companies I have faced where there was substantial financial restatement or financial fraud in the financial statements, the independent directors who thought they had signed on to attend some meetings and listen to some management presentations of numbers that arrived in a booklet that they flipped through quickly and listened to a presentation, suddenly these auditors found themselves effectively running the corporation, hiring new auditors, recommencing the process, and in a position of prominence that they never, and effective control they never dreamed they were taking on at the outset. So I guess to wrap this up in terms of the governance question, I think it's important for people to recognize that the most serious problems are not the result of the bad luck of encountering a predator or an evil person. They are natural results of how human beings behave under the pressures and incentives of corporate life, and it is the job of directors to provide that adult supervision that provides a balance between the pressure to produce and the essential quality of any organization that is to survive and grow, which is to be honest and transparent and truthful about what is being accomplished. And it is no small task that directors are asked to do, but unless you are prepared to take on that task, you're not really prepared to be a director of a corporation.
Thank you very much, Mr. Levinson, for your very explicit sharing. 那么接下来呢，我们要欢迎的是第3位与谈人，新加坡董事学会的代表。Please welcome our third panelist, Mr. John Lim, immediate past chairman of Singapore Institute of Directors. Ladies and gentlemen, please give a warm welcome to Mr. Lim.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. What I'd like to do first and foremost is to thank the FSC and the Taiwan Stock Exchange for inviting me to participate in this forum. I'm deeply honored and humbled by this invitation. One of the advantages in going a little bit later in the list of speakers is the fact that your eminent speakers before you had already touched on many of the points that should be brought to a forum like this, which makes my job a little bit easier. I must first also confess that I'm just a humble practitioner. I'm not prosecuting cases, nor am I a regulator, but I'm just a practitioner. And what I have to say this afternoon, which I'm addressing mainly to all of you who are directors of companies, making some comments and views which I've observed over my many years of involvement in the corporate sector. I would just want to touch on a few functions of directors, boards of directors, and also individual directors and then touch on some of the personal liabilities that directors can or are faced with. Our eminent moderator asked earlier, should boards have a reputation? Well, my answer is categorically yes, but there's got to be a good reputation. If you have a bad reputation, it can haunt you for many years of your life. I've spent many years in the fast-moving consumer product industry, and I know how important it is to have a good brand. If you have a good brand and suddenly there's a product that doesn't go well, that is not performing as it is, people will say, well, there's something wrong with this unit, but nothing wrong with the brand. But if you have a weak brand, they say this brand is lousy. So categorically, yes, boards must have a reputation, but they must strive to have a good reputation. What has been said about a balanced corporate governance ecosystem, and I don't want to say anything more about that, other than to say, for a balanced corporate governance ecosystem to work, all the stakeholders in the system must collaborate and actively work towards promoting good governance, which means whether you are a regulator or you are a what was referred to as a not-profit organization like the Institute of Directors, you need to work together with your investor bodies and also, of course, gatekeepers, as well as the media has to be part of that ecosystem. I just want to say that in my experience, an effective board is a big contributor and a critical player in this ecosystem. I just want to remind directors, because in the flurry of all the corporate governance rules and regulations that followed after the Asian financial crisis at the end of the 1990s, people for many years forgot that actually the board's role is to create value for all stakeholders, shareholders and stakeholders, while ensuring conformance to the rules and regulations of the jurisdiction or jurisdictions in which the company operates. There was a time when compliance, in fact, took center stage. People were so concerned in the aftermath of the Asian financial crisis, when all these rules came in, that this was what the board had to do. But I just want to remind all of us that the board has a dual role: create value and make the company successful in the long term, but you play according to the rules. You bosses just now talk about the Patriots, is it? Well, I mean, if you watch English Premier League, you take Liverpool, you know very well. The coach has to assemble a team made up of various components: forwards, midfielders, defenders, goalkeepers, so forth. But the players must also know the rules. But if they only knew the rules and knew the rules well, they'll never win. Because you've got to know the rules so that you don't run the risk of having a red card, but you must also score goals. So this is the role and function of the board: to perform as well as to conform. In order to do this, obviously, the board has to be made up of the right composition of members. It must have processes, board behavior, and I think Clark has talked a lot about all the committees. But there's one thing that I have observed, and today is still the case.
that the board, which is in fact the company's surest assurance of having sustainable performance and long-term sustainability, is a body whose composition, the selection, the evaluation, the development of its members is something that has not been given the attention that it requires. We just did a study in Singapore, and in fact, most nominating committee and remuneration committees met only once a year, you know. And if you look at the terms of reference, you know, the things they have to do, and if you look at the minutes, 45 minutes, 1 hour, you know. And this is something which continues to surprise me and many others, that this is a very important part of the board's role, to make sure you have the right people, and yet it is seldom given the attention. Quite different from if you're selecting a CEO or senior executive. You go to search firms, you look at all the candidates, you do now what is very fashionably called global search, you know. By the way, I don't believe that in fact searching for an outside CEO is really the best thing. I read Jeffrey's article and I agree entirely, promotion from within. But that requires some planning. We'll come to that a little bit later. This is something which is in fact given very little attention, and things got to change. I don't want to say too much about this. We're talking about characteristics of an effective board. If you want an effective board, what should the board consist of? But I want to touch on a few things. We've been talking about board diversity and competency. You know, now I'm very happy that in fact focus on competency has come back somewhat. Yeah? I think earlier this morning somebody talked about the fact that there are many boards where in fact no board member has any domain knowledge of the business in which the company is in. If you have no domain knowledge, nobody with domain knowledge, how are you going to challenge management? But okay, competency is required. You need diversity. I'm also, in fact, a big advocate for gender diversity, but I look at it slightly from a different standpoint. When you look at competency, and boards say, oh, I want a lawyer, I want an accountant, I want a regulator, and very often I want a former member of parliament, you know. But clearly what you need is not in fact something you pick out in isolation, but in line with what the company's strategy is. If you want to go into China in a big way, you better make sure you have somebody on your board who has in fact China experience, who worked there, who built businesses there. So competency and diversity is very much related to what the company needs, and that will change over time. Okay. I just want to talk about chairmanship, effective chairman. The importance of the chairman in contributing to board effectiveness cannot be overemphasized. A lot of people say, well, the chairman is only to chair the meeting, he fixes the agenda. Well, that's not even true, because the CEO comes to him and he says, is that okay? He says yes. You know? But the role of the chairman is extremely important. He's the one who in fact who is the link man between management and board members, between company and shareholders and stakeholders. He's the one who's got to ensure that all the board members have an effective role to play. They all contribute, they all speak up. He must encourage a culture of openness where directors are able to speak up, particularly in the face of opposing views from other directors. You know. He's got to be a mentor and coach to the CEO. You know. And the chairman is extremely critical, pivotal in an effective board. I see many companies where the chairman is either the major shareholder, somebody may be close to him, and appointed without a lot of reference to the role that the chairman has to play. Chairman has to ensure that the board focuses on the right things. So I just want to say that. And the third thing that I want to talk about is, in fact, clear understanding of role and focus, and supporting and challenging management. Supporting and challenging management is one of the tasks of the board, one of the functions which a lot of board members have difficulty in balancing. There are people who fall in love with the CEO, and then the CEO has his way, or there are people who feel that their role is to challenge everything CEO brings up, causing him to feel that maybe he's not adequate for the job. Balancing the challenge and supporting functions is extremely important for boards. Okay, I just put it down there. Performance, not just conformance, but performance without conformance also puts a company at big risk. But when you have just conformance and no performance, you don't have sustainable value. People call that, in fact, sometimes, if they're kind, value preservation. But most times it's value depletion. But value enhancement is what the board's job is. And as directors of companies, we all should remember that. Focus on value and values. Value in terms of where your resources should be applied, what is important in building up the value for the company, doing the right things, looking at product innovation, expansion, etc. Values, of course, represents the tone at the top. What are your values? But here, when you talk of values, you're talking of values that are not only articulated but entrenched and then cascaded down throughout the organization. There are many companies I've come across. You go into the office, all over the place, you've got big frame up, this is the value of the company, but you look around, none of what the values they put up are values that they are actually practicing. Healthy relationship between board and management, I think that's in fact self-explanatory. Okay, there are some focus areas for boards. I just want to touch on two: strategy and innovation. Strategy is extremely important. There are many directors, I'm quite prepared to stand up and say it in front of many directors. Strategy is something which in some boards is never even discussed. It's taken now. Strategy is management's job. But if a company is not given the right direction, the company does not have the right strategy, I'm not so sure how the company is going to create and build value for the investors and other stakeholders. But that's something which, as a director, from my many years of being on boards, is something that is very important to boards to focus on. Because if you don't have a strategy, you also don't know how you're going to allocate your resources. Okay, I just put it up there. I'm not going to talk about it. What a strategic plan should have, mission, vision, values, etc. A lot of directors ask me, how do you participate in the strategy development of a company? Basically, management is responsible for setting and refining strategy because they know the business. It's their job to know the business. But the board's role is to ensure that in coming up with a strategy, management has, in fact, a process which they have gone through, looking at the environment not only for now, but into the future, looking at competition, looking at opportunities, so that in coming up with the strategy, they've gone through a holistic exercise. And as a board member, you want to contribute, because board members have diverse experiences and skills and knowledge in different areas of the economy, and you can contribute. And you should in fact constructively challenge management. Are the assumptions valid and realistic? Have you considered this? Have you considered that? You know, it's not a question of saying that your strategy is no good, but the board has to make sure that in coming up with that strategy, all bases have been taken into consideration and that this strategy is sound. Yeah? And then, of course, your job is to review and then approve the strategy. And of course, once the strategy has been approved, it is also the board's job to actively support and contribute to the successful implementation. Companies that give management the strategy and then never come back to look at what's happened until the following year, I think we're falling short. As a board, we have fallen very short of what is expected of us. One of the things which I just want to mention, which is important but seldom thought of, when you in fact have a new strategy, especially today, innovation, new technology, new markets, when you have a new strategy, one of the key things boards should look at is, do I have a board with the competencies that can in fact supervise and contribute to the successful implementation of this strategy? I think I know many of you are directors of companies. You just think back how many times this has happened. Few companies, review of the board, composition, he's got 2 more years to go, he's got 1 more year. But sometimes you need to do this in order to ensure that your strategy is well supported from the board. Okay, I just moved on. A board strategy retreat is now quite commonplace. Many companies now have this once a year off-site. I think it's a very good practice because it allows the board and senior management to discuss things to the total exclusion of other subjects. You just focus on the strategy, you talk about it, you have a bonding time, and I think this is a very, very good practice. The other area I want to focus on is in fact human resources. Most of my experiences with companies without an effective CEO is a company usually does not do well. Again, as directors of the company, this is something we should all be looking at. But not often do I see new directors coming in, wanting to know more about the CEO. They come in, if 6 of other directors have accepted him, he must be okay, and sits down. Having a competent CEO is extremely important. The right CEO with the right team, extremely important. And not only the appointment, the selection, but also the evaluation, the compensation and so forth. We talk about board succession, senior management succession, but in practice, this is also an area that is not got sufficient attention because a lot of directors don't quite know how to do it. Especially we talk in terms of the CEO succession in Asia, 60% of our companies are, majority owned either by family or by government or so forth. Sometimes a little bit sensitive to do that. But you've got to look at it and find ways to doing that. And you've got to do this succession well ahead of time. We talk about in terms of looking for a CEO. The best thing is in fact plan ahead and be able to produce a CEO from within. It's the devil you know rather than the devil you don't. Yeah? And also parachuting too many CEOs or high or senior executives in is actually quite demoralizing to people in second level management. So this is to me a very important part. This is something which we as directors should also be focusing on. Clark has talked about audit committees and all the risk management and so forth. Thank you very much, so I don't have to touch on that. Now we talk about roles and then we talk about duties of directors. In order to carry out the function of board, directors have got certain duties to play. I know Taiwan is a civil law regime, we are a common law regime, but I think the duties of directors are very much the same. Duties of care, skill and diligence, act in the best interest of the company. I think these duties are quite common across, there's great conversions around the world in terms of what they are. And then there's some statutory duties. A couple of minutes if I may. I'll ask the moderator for his kind permission. Thank you. Okay. Then of course there are possible consequences. And basically in terms of duty of care, skill and diligence, directors are held to a minimum standard. There's an objective test and there's subjective tests. And I should also say that in fact EDs are held to a higher standard than a non-executive director. Again, I don't want to go through this because I want very quickly to give you a case, which probably take a few minutes, of the risk that directors can are faced with on a personal basis. There are many requirements, directors, and some of the requirements relate to market disclosure. You have to, in fact, an issuer talking a listed company, announce information that are likely to materially affect the price or value of securities. Listed companies shall not intentionally, recklessly, or negligently fail to notify the Securities Exchange of such information. You're not supposed to make false or misleading statements. There's a landmark case in Singapore called Air Ocean. Okay? This is a company which is in fact in the logistics business, a case where the High Court overturned an independent director's, in fact 3 independent directors' conviction. One is for misconduct and the others are for failing to disclose and then talking about misleading information. But this case highlights the possible serious consequences for directors for failure to comply with the requirements. But it also at the same time clarified the High Court's position in terms of interpretation. Early September 2005, the group CEO was questioned by the Corrupt Practices Investigation Bureau, CPIB, relating to a suspected bribe paid to secure business for 2 subsidiary companies. Okay? You know very well. You want to act in the best interest by paying a bribe to secure business is a no-no. He was arrested and released on bail, passport impounded. All the directors knew, but no public disclosure was made. But the company did appoint legal counsel to advise. Late November, and this is in fact part of the ecosystem, the media published an article on CPIB's investigation of CEO. Because of that report, the stock exchange queried the company, and the company then released a disclosure, but did not mention about CPIB's investigation of the 2 subsidiaries. Okay? SGX was not satisfied, went back to the company, a second announcement was made, but then only mentioned that 3 directors were questioned by CPIB, but did not disclose directors of the 2 subsidiaries which were involved were also questioned. Subsequently, not the High Court, the MAS took action, and of course public prosecutor, 5 of the 6 directors, 2 EDs and 3 IDs, were subsequently convicted. I would not talk about the EDs because there was also insider trading and so forth. But 1 ID was charged and convicted of failure to use reasonable diligence in discharge of duties as directors. What was he guilty of? He was actually chairing a charity golf tournament when in fact the November, early December disclosures were made, and he just told the company secretary, oh, so long as Director X accepts that, it's okay with me. And that was what happened. He was fined 1 year's disqualification. But 2 of the IDs, failure to disclose the CEO's investigations, talking about September, before the report came out, and release a false public announcement, November, December. One was fined 120,000, sentenced 4 months imprisonment. This caused great concern because this was the first custodial sentence against an ID. It sent shivers to all the independent directors. 3rd ID was charged releasing a false public announcement, fined $170,000. Anyway, they appealed to the High Court, and then the High Court basically reversed the decision on the failure to disclose and providing misleading information. The listed company is required to disclose information which would likely to materially affect the price. And then the second one is in fact prohibited of making a statement that is misleading. What the court did was conceptualize information as material only if it's price-sensitive information. The court held information that was not disclosed and that was disclosed later on, which in fact was considered misleading, was trade-sensitive but not materially sensitive, in that it did not have the possibility of, in fact, affecting the share price. So the 2 IDs were actually, in fact, where their conviction was actually reversed. And basically, it set the benchmark in Singapore that information must meet a higher threshold to be priced rather than trade sensitive. It may influence investors to buy or sell, but may not significantly affect share price. Third issue of recklessly issuing the announcement, directors' defense was that they had relied on legal practice. The public prosecutor argued the such advice was flawed and should have been questioned. What did the court say? The court held that directors were not reckless in failing to question legal advice unless it can be shown the advice was manifestly absurd, irrational, or wrong. But that means directors still have to look at the advice, unless it appeared to them that in fact the advice was manifestly wrong or irrational. They have the right not to question the advisors. Okay? So this is an area where in fact directors, have to use judgment, have to decide how they're going to act. Often it was said that if in doubt, just disclose. But in a case like that, it was also argued that if it disclosed it prematurely, because at the time in September, the CEO had not really been charged yet, that could also have been damaging to the company. Okay, this is my last thing. This is some consideration for IDs or NEDs. Decision to accept a board appointment should not be taken lightly. Directors must be confident you have the time to actually pay adequate attention, to learn about the company's business, to familiarize yourself with its financials and the issues, and so forth. You are entitled to rely on the guidance and advice, etc., but you must all still apply your own mind to the facts at hand. You can delegate to experts and so forth so long as you know they're competent, but the act of supervision cannot be delegated. So this is all I have this afternoon. Thank you very much for your patience and for your indulgence in accommodating my run-out of time. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lin. Please take your seat. 接下来我们欢迎第4位语坛人是 Board Mentoring 的代表。Please welcome our next panelist, Ms. Julian Wilmot, founder and CEO of Board Venturi. Ladies and gentlemen, please now give a warm welcome to Ms. Wilmot.
Thank you. I'm most honoured to be here and to visit beautiful Taipei for the first time, hopefully not the last. Up there, in addition to running board mentoring, I have served on many boards in a variety of sectors. And in all of them, although the corporate governance rules have been similar, because they've had different stakeholders and different shareholders, in practice, there's been a very different emphasis. One thing I would say is that all these rules are about one thing, and one thing only, which is to do the right thing. And cultures are different, and the rules vary. So if you're on a public board, it's the 7 principles of public life, like the Industrial Development Advisory Board. But leaders must embed the culture of doing the right thing. And those cultures and values are all about trust and transparency. I believe, and I know people in this room believe, that business is a force for economic and social good. It needs to be sustainable long term. But one shocking statistic, and I don't know if anyone knows the answers to this, is actually that companies on the public market are not there for a huge number of years. Has anybody got any idea of what the average globally is for a company to serve on the public markets? Looking at Paul and people. No? 17 years. So this is the idea that they're around forever. A few are, most are around for actually quite a short time, which is pretty shocking. So it's just not good enough in my view. So leaders must have their finger on the pulse of the organisation they're serving in. They must have visibility informally to the front line, the people actually serving their customers. They must have emotional intelligence to read people, read the mood and understand the unspoken. So when you go into an organisation, in whatever level, whether you're going to be a supplier, whether you're going to be an independent director, the chairman, the CEO, or just work with them, it's helpful to do a 360-degree process on them, which is what I do when I mentor CEOs, and it's what I do before I go into a new organisation. And it's like mentoring. You talk to customers, you talk to suppliers, you visit branches, you visit outlets, you go to depots, you go to offices, you find out what it's like in different geographies, different functions, different levels, different divisions, routes to market, product lines. That is due diligence, not staring at pieces of paper with numbers on them. So let's talk about process versus intent. An awful lot of corporate governance talks about process, and people get awfully fixated on the process. And people who love process end up dealing with it, because the rest of us get totally bored. And that's a terrible idea. It's a shocking idea, because process is an input. The output is good governance, and we want good governance because we want the companies to last longer than 17 years on average, and we want successful companies that contribute to our communities and offer sustainable long-term employment and a sustainable environmental impact. So we need a structure to do the right thing. And that structure is leadership based on trust and transparency. Now, as several speakers have pointed out, the chairman runs the board and the CEO runs the company. The UK and Taiwan both have a unitary board structure, so there's a clear separation of roles. And that needs skill and commitment, particularly self-control from the chairman. So when you've been asked to join a board, in whatever capacity, as an executive or an independent director, and I'm actually giving people advice on whether to join FTSE boards in the UK very often, because they're in a big executive role on another board, and I'm mentoring them, we go through a process of asking 3 questions. And they sound deceptively simple, but they're not, because you've got to go back to your 360 process. The first, and this has been talked about before, is, are they competent? Is the organisation competent? The second, which is just as important, is, do I trust them? So when the chips are down, and when you've missed your quarter sales, are they going to do the right thing? Or are you going to be in a minority, or not know about it, because they're all running around covering it up? And the third thing, if you want the Holy Grail, the triumvirate, you don't have to have this one, but it sure as hell helps, is, do you like them? Do you actually want to spend time with these people? Do you have anything at all in common? Because diversity is great, but if you actually can't stand the sight of each other, it's not really going to improve working relationships. So you can respect them. You don't actually have to be new best friends, but you really want to be in the same room with them. If there's people you don't want to spend time with, then it's a really bad idea to join that board or get involved with the organisation as an employee. So, have I gone? Sorry. So, the principal role of the board is really to concentrate on the 4 issues that are up on this slide. So, there's a very fine line between strategy and operational, and nobody's quite sure where it's drawn, and that's a really big issue in a board. The second one that is not talked about in many boards, and it's dangerous, is people. Now, people can be measured. That doesn't mean we work out how tall they are. It means that we work out what's going on with the people, and we quantify it, and we make it information that a board can understand and digest. It's really important. It's an insufficient focus on most boards. You can measure pretty much everything to do with people. You can measure your turnover. You can look at exit interviews. There's lots of information the board could request that most boards do not request, and it's a huge blind spot. You've got your financial statements and understanding, but they've got to be linked to the strategy, and they've got to be forward-looking. There's an awful lot of rear-view mirrors. I'm the person in the boardroom who, because I'm not an accountant, but I'm 98th centile on numeric reasoning, spots the error on the formula on the spreadsheet, and everyone goes, because it's on a spreadsheet, it's got to be right. And I go, well, hang on a minute, you told me this 6 weeks ago, and that 4 months ago, and I'm triangulating those numbers in my head, and I can't get to this number. And then we find out there's a formula error. So there's got to be some understanding of where these numbers sit in everything else you understand about that company. And lastly, stakeholders, the 360-degree view. The board should be constantly listening to what all its stakeholders are saying, and principally its customers. So because of this is also complicated and also difficult, what it really means is effective boards are in a minority, really effective boards. And quite frankly, that's what the S&P ratings evidence. If you've got 5% as hugely effective, there's room for improvement. So there's an element of dysfunctionality in most boardrooms. And that doesn't help when you then overlay environmental, social and governance issues. So let's think about the issues under the company's control. So those are its people and its culture, and they're listed on here. Is this business customer focused? Because it should be. Colleagues are the first line in interfacing with customers, so boards must focus on a positive culture and good processes of succession planning. If a company does really good succession planning, has visible measurement. There are people metrics in board packs. There is customer insight. It is a well-run company because most do not have anything like that. Then there's the issues which impact the company and which must be included in planning. It's important to scenario plan because nothing ever survives, as the military would say, the first moment of engagement with the enemy, or the first moment of engaging with market forces and your competitors in this case. So it's really important, and to do this effectively, board members must have the operational insight to understand the business. Now, this is very often misunderstood. They don't need to understand every detail of the business. They do need to understand the key levers and deliverers of performance, the things that drive performance. And that can be explained and understood to people who are smart, particularly if some of those board members understand the sector. And lastly, good quality board papers which summarise things and are punchy help board members tremendously, and they're essential for good and effective meetings. So the UK doesn't get it right a lot of the time. We have had some absolute corkers, but they were all predictable. You could have stopped these things happening. So the first one is an example of aggressive accounting, and as is very often common, it's revenue recognition before you should recognise the revenue, all the stuff we've heard earlier. It's a common problem because you chase the first quarter and then you're on the snowball that we don't have in most of Asia, but this, in a large international retailer, could have been prevented. And culture was the issue. It was an alpha male and aggressive culture. It was known. I stopped an executive I was mentoring moving to this company because it was so well known to the right people. That was not a company that had the right values. In fact, she went to work in Asia and has done tremendously well. That was the first alert. The second alert was the resignation of 2 colleagues in accounting because they said there was dishonest accounting. Now, that was a pretty big red flag, wasn't it? And basically, if you must have effective processes in a business for colleagues to raise concerns to the board that are not called whistleblowing. Whistleblowing is terrifying. People don't use it. It's scary. It's disloyal. They feel they're letting their colleagues down. All the stuff we've heard. You call it a forum to raise ideas and concerns. You make it anonymous if need be. You make it an open channel. It's about trust. It's about a two-way dialogue. If they trust you, they will raise their concerns. You will not get caught out. Another one that's just hit the UK, because we do have more than our fair share, is Carillion. And this is an example of leadership and, quite frankly, greed. Pretty much everything that they should have done, they did not do right. I mean, we've got the whole list: insider trading, financial misstatement, everything. And it was basically greed. It was about values, it was about reward structures, it was not having a balanced scorecard and the right culture and values in that business, and the board not being in control of that business. This is exceptionally embarrassing because they run major UK government contracts, which are supposed to have stacks of due diligence on them. And then another one that's just hit, Danske Bank in Copenhagen, is very interesting because it's an example of how one small geography or division can impact the whole organisation and company. So one small division can have collateral damage everywhere. 32 currencies are now involved in this, and London's not going to come out smelling of roses either. Sorry, a very British expression. It means you smell unpleasant. So, how we go about preventing this? The best companies focus on who is promoted based on behaviours. Culture and values and behaviour are critical. It's not soft stuff, it's essential, and meritocracy is essential. You measure turnover of staff, you do exit interviews, you give the board visibility, or the board demands visibility of exit interviews that have not been doctored, because people tell the truth when they're going out the door. It's very difficult before then. You may have a process for ideas and concerns to be raised and flagged, and a route direct to the board possibly through the company secretary or an attorney or whatever your process is, but there's a safe route straight to the top by somebody who understands the legal and reputational implications of that. You don't just have a whistleblowing system, because it's too scary and it's not appropriate for many situations, which are just the beginning of what was described to you earlier. Diversity is hugely important, that you do not have groupthink. Case studies, Harvard, many good academics have proven that diversity adds value. It does not just prevent failure, it adds value. So it has two crucial values in corporate terms. This will come as a shock, but boardrooms are not democracies, I've noticed in my 20 years on boards. It's why I like to be the chairman. The power roles carry more weight. It's actually less risky to be the chairman, quite frankly, than an independent non-exec director. Because as the chairman, you can guide the organisation, and I do almost exclusively chairman roles, having had a couple of unfortunate experiences, shall we say. The power roles carry more weight, and the UK is making progress. But beware the UK saying we've got 30% of women, which is only one measure of diversity on boards, because they're mainly in NED roles, which is a bit like the supporting cast to the main characters. It's much slower on power roles. So my measure is more women and people from a diverse background and true diversity as chairmen and CEOs in every corporate governance framework, in every global regime. And this is a much slower thing to achieve, but we will achieve it, and we will have much more sustainable businesses as a result. So, what are the resources we can use? Well, at the heart of this is trust, and you can tell a lot of this by going into businesses, going into boardrooms and watching the dynamics, the interpersonal dynamics. Now, there will be cultural differences, and clearly I'm more used to an Anglo-Saxon boardroom, but I know that in an Anglo-Saxon environment, if you go into a boardroom and it's too polite and it's too formal, that's a very poor sign. The relationships are very strained. It's not a good sign. You need people in whatever cultural dynamic it is to be relaxed with each other. In the UK, that usually means they're being quite rude to each other. I appreciate in Asia that won't apply. But they need to be comfortable with each other. Reviews are important because it's time for the board to self-reflect and be comfortable that there's sufficient constructive challenge and people are going about that in the right way. You don't want somebody who's always challenging, because then people ignore them when actually some of their concerns might be valid, but everybody's tuned them out, i.e. they've stopped listening. Equally, you don't want people who sit there passively always supporting, and it's a very fine and skilled line. The board must understand the key subjects and technical issues, and all board members must understand them. So take one topic of board meeting and train them up. You can't expect them to be experts if they're not, unless you give them a really good top-level view so that they understand the key drivers. There needs to be clear visibility of key issues, and it's very important that the chairman in particular makes sure everybody gets behind the mask, that things are, the papers are good, but things are impromptu, not staged. In a good company, in a good corporation, with trust, you have access. Everything isn't staged. So make sure you turn up on an impromptu basis if you think things are being staged. And generally speaking, the larger the board pack, the less they want you to know on the executive. So you want nice, small, easily digested, punchy, summarised board packs, or you have to very politely ask for them and keep asking till you get them. So in summary, it's all about values. It's all about doing the right thing. 360 feedback, all the information to prevent failure and make good decisions is out there, whether it's a board you're on or a board you're going to join or a company you're going to trade with, and constructive challenge. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Wilmot. Please take your seat.